Did you know you can have ackee and saltfish for dinner? Well, if you didn't, now I'm putting you on. So come with me as I share with you how I put this ackee and saltfish dish together. But before we get to making this, here is what you need to know. I'm not in Jamaica, and therefore I don't have access to fresh ackee. So what are we going to use? The beautiful stuff in the can. It's the same delicious fruit, but in a can and comes in brine. So let's get to making this. We're gonna have this with some dumplings. So we're gonna make the dumplings first, or start the dumplings, so that it is done by the time we're finished cooking. So get some water in a pot on the stove and get it to boiling. And then let's get to making the dumplings. Now you're gonna add your flour to a container, and then you're gonna tip a little salt in there, as much or as little as you need, and you're going to use about half the amount of water to the amount of flour. The thing about making dumplings is you want to add the water a little bit at a time. You don't want to add all of it at once, hence you might just end up with a sticky, tacky, or a sticky dough that's hard to form dumplings. So add the water a little bit at a time until you bring the dough together. And you want your dough to be soft but pliable. You don't want it to be soft and super sticky because you don't want tough dumplings. I like to take the dumpling out of the container once it's come together and roll it up, knead it a little more on a floured surface. That's just my preference. You can totally skip this and just bring it together in your bowl. Once you brought it together, then you go ahead and split that dough into however many dumplings you want. This is not a lot of dough, and therefore we're only going to get about 6. And this is about half cup of flour, or a cup of flour, sorry. So now that we've got our dumplings made, they're never pretty, at least mine aren't, and they aren't uniform. We're going to get them in the hot water. Be sure to salt your water once it's boiling, and then tip a little butter or oil in there for a little added richness, but also to prevent sticking of the dumpling to the pot. Next, let's get started on our ackee and saltfish. We're going to do the veggies and the saltfish first. You want to start by getting in some oil into a pan and get your veggies sauteed. We've got onions and bell peppers, which we're going to get started on first because we want the veggies to be nice and soft by the time we add our saltfish and ackee. We're going to get them sauteed, and you don't want to overcook the veggies. You just want to get it soft enough to match the texture of the other items in the dish. And then when you add the garlic after you've added the veggies, because you do not want the garlic to burn. So don't add it first. You just want to get the garlic in so that it becomes fragrant. Think about it for about keep it in for about 30 to 40 seconds. Once it's nice and fragrant, then go ahead and add your pepper. Whether you use Scotch bonnet or habanero, it's entirely up to you. If you want to use seeds, again, that's up to you to how spicy you want it. But if it's got seeds, it's going to be extra spicy. Then we're going to add our picked saltfish. This has already been prepared. It was boiled and then picked. So all you have is the meat here. And we're going to add the herbs or powdered herbs, the dried herbs to this, and we just want to get this incorporated with the veggies, and we want the seasonings or the herbs, the dried herbs, to permeate. We want to toast them more or less with the saltfish here. We are not going to spend a lot of time mixing this around like you see me doing here, but I wanted to make sure that it's not sticking because I'm using a cast iron pan. And then I added a little extra oil just because it started to stick a little bit. Now that's something you also want to be mindful of. If it's sticking, then maybe you're either too hot or you don't have enough grease in the pan. You could also tip a little water. I choose not to add water. Rather, I will cover the pan and let it create some steam and some liquid. To get the ackee prepared, simply open the can, dump that out in a strainer, and you want to rinse it lightly. You see how soft the ackee looks? It's already well cooked, so we're not going to spend a lot of time preparing this. So we add the remaining seasonings, herbs, to the saltfish before adding the ackee and the scallions and thyme. and you're going to gently incorporate the ackee into the saltfish, because we do not want a mushy ackee and saltfish dish. So be gentle. You just want to incorporate it enough so that the seasonings are combined and the veggies are also combined, and you have a well dispersed dish. Once you've got that incorporated, simply cover it for a few minutes so that the ackee is warmed through. Look at that. Tasty, well cooked, beautiful ackee and saltfish. Now let's plate it up. Plate it up with your dumplings, as many dumplings as you need. I'm also having a little rice and peas because that's what I had, and this is for dinner. You could also have this with other boiled food. We're talking boiled sweet potatoes, boiled yam. Some plantain would also be good with this. But either way, whatever you have it with, it is going to hit the spot. Nothing tastes as good as food that you make, especially when it's from home and you can get a taste of home. So I hope you make some ackee and saltfish, not just for dinner, not just for breakfast, but for dinner, any time of the day. Let me know if you make this and tell me how good it tastes. Check out basicbowlnutrition.com for the recipe.